This is You're Probably Right. Entertainment first, everything else is just bonus. Opinions, all ours. Sometimes backed by research, but never the final word. There are always exceptions, so take it with a grain of salt and a slight dusting of chili powder. If something in this episode resonates with you or you want to reach out directly, you can email the show at yprpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find the podcast on Facebook. Just search You're Probably Right podcast and the page should come up. And if you are listening somewhere other than Spotify, you can find the show there as well. Just search You're Probably Right and follow the podcast so new episodes show up automatically.
Just joking.
All right, let's get into it.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's MCM, and you're listening to You're Probably Right podcast. This is, as I was so annoyingly saying earlier, a bonus episode. Now, you might be saying, why is it a bonus episode? Well, it's a bonus episode simply because of the fact that I'm going to be eating while I'm talking to you tonight. So it's a little bit different. And I know it's weird. So once you heard that, I mean, if you're already a person who can't stand to hear the sound of somebody eating in the microphone, then this episode is not for you. And that's why it's just a bonus episode. I'm just throwing it in there for jokes. On the other hand, maybe you're a person who is eating. Maybe you eat generally while you listen to this podcast or something, and you're by yourself, whatever, nobody's there. Well, tonight I'm going to be your eating buddy, and I'm going to do this podcast and I'm going to eat at the same time. I believe I can still speak pretty clearly, maybe because I got a big mouth, I don't know. But yeah. Wondering why this wave thing looks so huge. Interesting. I dropped this microphone a couple days ago, twice. A microphone you're not even supposed to drop once. Imagine, eh? Yeah, that's what it's been like. All right. So I'm going to get my food, and to keep it realistic, I'm going to actually go get it. So you'll hear me going to get it. Just hang out. All right. Here I go, there I go. Here we are, we're coming back. I'm gonna knock the lights off. Drink action. Time. All right. Skip back over. Scoop. All right, and I am back. Keeping it light. Funny thing is, after this episode, I'll be going to have an MRI. So, should be interesting. So yeah, again, I'm not trying to be rude. Remember, this episode, like all my other episodes, are for entertainment purposes only. So I certainly will be entertaining you today. And I'm just having spring rolls, simple vegetarian spring rolls, and drinking some juice on the side here, some Rougemont drink that I poured in a glass. So, if you heard that just now, that's about as loud as the microphone's going to get as far as me eating is concerned. So, hopefully, won't be a bother. So, as I said, bonus episode, dinner with the podcast after Heartbreak. It's probably, yeah, it does sound kind of, well, it's not my fault. 20 honest questions after a painful breakup. Now, I think talking about feelings while eating food is probably not a good idea. Sure, for you smart people out there. Not saying I'm smart, but my reasoning is that, I guess, yeah, if you do really want somebody to give you their heart of hearts, I don't think it's over food. Because I think the person, when you're feeding them, is they're being satisfied at some level. Unless, of course, they hate to eat or something. So therefore, you might not get the raw emotion, you know? Not that you have to be hangry to talk about stuff. It's pretty good, I guess. You see, the funny thing is, I bought it from a Chinese supermarket, and it says you're supposed to deep fry them. But I don't feel like deep frying anything, so I air fried them, and they taste pretty good. Anyhow, welcome back to the You're Probably Right podcast. This is a bonus episode, and this is I guess it's going to be a little different, obviously, like I always say. I'm calling this one Dinner with the Podcast After Heartbreak, because that's literally what this is. I'm sitting down to eat, sitting down to talk, and if you are listening by yourself tonight, maybe this can feel a little bit more like company, rather than content, This is not a polished episode, or any of them really. It is not one of my usual, tightly structured episodes. It's more of a personal like that, I guess, than that. But I told you, I don't know if you get really the heart of somebody when they're eating. Maybe you do. Maybe they're so satisfied that they feel more relaxed. I guess there's so many ways to think of that. I never really thought about it. They do feed criminals. They'll ask them if they want a drink or bag of chips. I've seen those interrogation rooms. I wonder, maybe the food helps them calm their nerves or something. I'm sure there's psychology on it. I just don't know what it is. And the funny thing is, this just dawned on me, and because I was just thinking about talking about something emotional, and then being fed at the same time. I wonder if you give more or less. You can Google that, search it up, as young people would say. All right. So this is more of like just a personal thought I had, Might be a dumb idea, but whatever. We'll probably learn why it's a bad idea, or you're learning why it's a bad idea. So just wanted to do something that felt real and relaxed, honest. Not that they're not all honest anyway, but I mean honest to life, stuff that happens. And one thing I can do with you is eat, right? With you, or you can just listen to me eat. So while I eat, I want to walk through some questions about what happens after a painful breakup, which I've had. So many of us had, right? So I'm gonna do my best to remember whatever I can remember. So it won't be a neat, expert sounding way. It's just gonna be me. I'm just hanging out with you. More like someone trying to tell the truth about what heartbreak actually does to you, how it gets in your head, and what you end up doing with all that pain. So if you ever been or ever had a relationship and it ended and you found yourself replaying everything from voice messages to reading extra old texts or looking at old videos or something, they always do the cliche in movies, the cliche guy sitting down on an old couch in a man cave or something, or basement, family room. It's never a beautiful looking place, looking at his old wedding videos before his wife died or something, So, as I said before, if you ever had a relationship where you found yourself replaying everything and trying to understand all the mixed signals that you probably should have recognized, but didn't. Tried to stay, productive, trying not to reach out, just trying to heal, or just trying to understand why it hits so hard. This is the episode for you, I guess. But I mean, it's going to be only from my standpoint. It's not going to be definitely no research. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through 20 questions after a painful breakup, and I'm just going to answer them as honestly as I can. Let's get into it. These are okay, I guess. How's your food? Here we are. Okay. First question. What about this relationship felt deeper than I expected it to feel? That is probably the best place for me to start, because part of what made this painful was that I didn't expect it to become that way, you know? Sometimes I guess, or generally, I guess we're more intentional, honestly, about what we're doing in these different situations. And because most people, a lot of us, trying to get married and stuff, right? Or you're an adult looking for a partner, whatever, right? But I think I was doing that my whole life from the first time I got married, right? And I think somehow it turned out that I was just like, now at this point, whatever. So I just didn't expect it to be anything. So I don't think I went into it thinking this is going to be the huge life moving, emotional, significant thing, I don't think that that was expectation at all. I didn't really have any, and I didn't know if anything would come out of anything, to tell you the truth. I probably thought it was just going to stay light, maybe more superficial, more manageable, or somewhere along that way anyway. And sometimes I guess that's what makes heartbreak confusing. It's not just the relationship that mattered. It's that it mattered more than you meant it to, you know? We got into places that you didn't expect it to get into. Maybe it got into places that you didn't even open up for it to get into. Maybe you said to yourself, or maybe the other person, or maybe they said to you, like they say that, just seeing what's going on. Too busy for a relationship, or too hurt for a relationship. Maybe you said it, maybe they said it. So maybe the fact of just having no expectations. And I think when you have no expectations, maybe you open yourself up more. Because you're not really going in, with because you don't think it's going to be anything. So therefore, and you maybe, I don't know, maybe you're still thinking that somebody's trying to get something from you. So I don't know how open. Maybe you're just open for different things. But it's funny how things happen when you least expect them to. And it's funny that when they happen to you, within a relationship and only you. That's what I find horrible. And maybe that is part of, what I'm dealing with. Maybe it was just, the relationship and all the other things that attach themselves to a relationship very easily when you are freewheeling and open-minded. Maybe it was the feeling of being seen a certain way physically, maybe even, that way, like, how somebody like gets, can you see ocularly? um the way you're actually seen through the eyes, how the person looks at you. I'm sure there's many not movies, well, even that too, but I'm sure there's many songs that are just based on looks. Way, there's a song I think says, look at yourself through heaven's eyes. I think they did that for the Prince of Egypt, or Angel Eyes, or something like that. A whole bunch of different songs though about eyes. So how somebody actually looks at you, and then how they look at you as far as a person, like respect, or do they see you just as this, or do they see you way more than that? Yeah, when when something surprises you emotionally like that, it can leave a bigger mark for certain. So be careful. Always go into things with the right motives. What would someone say is the right motive? Well, for me, the right motive would be to be married, live long, live a long life together under God. You know, I think it's the only reason why anybody like me, or anybody who's a believer, would say they should be trying to get into any kind of anything with anybody like that. Is for the right reasons. Be fruitful and multiply and all that. Two. Two. Man, this thing's been on for so long. Hold on. I gotta plug this in. Was I grieving the person, the relationship, the rejection, or the version of myself I became around them? Well, I guess we're assuming that I got dumped. Anyway. Sometimes I look at the substance of the relationship, and I look at the substance of the individual, and maybe there's not that much there, you know and who says you can't care about something or someone who is very shallow, or maybe not shallow, a lot of different thoughts about simple things, or at least in my mind, simple. Not to say that they're actually not intelligent. They just had basic not needs, just not very, their desires were not very not very broad of topics, I guess. And yeah. And as far as a rejection is concerned, um, I think there's a level of rejection I felt because it was rejection by way of behavior and attitude, you know? It's like, um, I mean, I'm the person who kind of ended it 3 times, and, it had gotten a little lackluster, and it feels like it was going that way, and they seemed like the kind of person that might just let it pop and fizzle slowly, and it's like, nothing's worse than, if you got a Band-Aid to take off, nothing is, there's not a worse way of taking the Band-Aid off, but very, very, very slowly when you're not the person pulling the brakes. Think about somebody even driving a car, right? Say we're driving a car and um, a red light is coming or something like that, and you're driving me around, or I'm driving you around, and I'm just slowly touching the brakes. Not enough to stop the car, but enough that anybody in the car would feel that we're slowing down, except that we're slowing down so slowly. It's just annoyingly slowly, you know? So, um, I guess that is a hard question though, because I think of after a breakup, people often assume they're grieving one thing, when really you're grieving several things at once. Sometimes you're grieving the person, sometimes you're grieving the bond, sometimes you're grieving the rejection, sometimes you're grieving the confusion of like what happened, and sometimes you're grieving the version of yourself that maybe you've been treated a certain way all your life, and then all of a sudden you have this person who seemingly propped you up in a way that you've never been propped up before, but I guess a delightful prop up. And maybe you just haven't been lifted that high before, and now it's gone. And you can look at that any way you want to look at it. And the last part, is very real, I guess. Sometimes a person doesn't just mean something to you because of who they are. Sometimes they mean something to you because of what happens you know, inside yourself when you're around that person. Maybe you just feel lighter. Maybe you feel stress free. Maybe you feel protected. Maybe you feel desired or wanted. Maybe you feel more alive, or maybe just feel more. Maybe you feel more interesting, or maybe you feel more chosen. Maybe it's just something deeper. So, when it ends, you're not just losing them, you may also feel like you're losing access to the version of yourself, and that is, part of why it can feel disorienting. You're not just saying goodbye to a person, you're saying goodbye to a certain, emotional atmosphere. And, if you haven't had that, it's really hard to let go, especially when it doesn't seem like you had to, even though you have to. As I said, for people who are accustomed to just trying to let something, like, they don't have the guts to end it because of where it's taken them, or what they've done, or what they've been given, or whatever the case is. So what they think is that they'll just treat you in a not so positive manner for as long as it takes for you to get tired and end things. And I think that is what damages a lot of people. It's people actually people actually do this, and I just couldn't imagine doing that to someone. Like, that is really cowardly. Like, I think, let's just say it was my not my desire. It was my decision that that's how what I was gonna do to someone, and I was just gonna slowly, pull the band-aid off. I think at some point there's somebody who would like pull, and it's off. And then there's some people who start and go pull, 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 pull. And it's off. You know what I mean? And I think that'd be more me. I test out and then I just realized how much pain I was putting myself through or them through. And I think I would just yank it off and say, you know what? Honestly, I know that I've been treating you such and such a way. And it's because, I kind of this, that, and the other. And, it's over. But to say that I could literally do this to someone over, say, a period of 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks or something like that, like I just couldn't imagine going through that, and I don't think I could imagine doing that to someone. What exactly hurt most when it ended? And that's another question, that sounds simple, until you actually try to answer it. What hurt most was it separation itself, or was it the sense of rejection? Was it feeling misunderstood? Was it feeling like the connection meant more to me than it meant to the other person? Was it silence? Was it the fact that I could not fix it? Was it feeling that I was left holding something emotionally significant while the other person seemed to be living, on a whole nother wavelength? Because, heartbreak is not just one feeling, it's many feelings, it's definitely layered. And it feels like, it feels like when everything, is, wonderful inside of you, it just feels like a total soul interruption, total confusion. There's like a bruising of your ego or something, because it's like, you thought it was going here, and it's like, you go that way and you go this way. Well, guess what? You made the wrong move. It's going this way, and you thought it was going that way, and too bad for you. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can say about it. There's nothing you can pay about it. There's just nothing. It's just sorry. You just have not been chosen. And I mean, I don't know if people have, I honestly can't say, maybe you have gone through a lot of that. I don't know, anybody listening. But for me, no, that I'm not saying like I've never been ended. I'm not saying that. It's just um seemingly just I think I think things can end because they had begun and they were for a long time, and you moved into different areas or spaces, or it grew in different ways. But there's another thing when you didn't even get to a growth stage, but it was long enough still that you thought it was going into that type of direction, and just to find out that no, we're done with you. Your service are no longer required. Um, and the funny thing is like sometimes it's not even that you can redeem the time, or you can't go back in time. And it's like, but then you look back, and I mean, if I was gonna write a song, as many have done out of heartbreak, mine would probably be something along the lines of, if I could go back in time, the things I would have done. You know what I mean? And it would, I think, totally be based off of that. And I think we all can think of um, things that we would have done differently in a relationship that we actually cared about. And I think if you don't, I think if you like, you can think about it, but I think if you don't even do that, then the question is like, how did you really feel about the relationship? If you don't feel like if you feel like you had all this heartbreak, but yet it never dawned on you that there was one thing that you would have done differently or more of, if you knew that it wasn't going to last. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. What else is there? But I do think a lot of people underestimate how much pain comes from that. You know, they think they are just missing the relationship, but sometimes they are missing so much more of a story that just felt like there were so many more pages to write. You know what I mean? Anyhow, number 5. What did I do first to cope, and was it actually helping me? Was it actually helping me heal? Um, hmm, I think the first thing was just distracting myself with rom-coms and movies that were emotionally moving. Didn't even have to be about um I'm not trying to date any situations or whatever like that, but remember there was this movie called Manhattan by the Sea, and I'd watched it. I've watched it a few times, and for some reason, it's like the movie is brand new. It's with Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck's brother. Um, I don't know, but I've told people personally that movie rivals Shawshank in certain ways. And I can't say that about a lot of movies, like Shawshank, A Green Mile, um, and a few other movies that are really like tearjerkers, um, for different reasons. And yeah. Anyhow, so let's see. What did I do? Yeah, I would say definitely movies. you know, I mean, beyond that, did I stay busy? Did I try to distract myself? Yeah, but I guess that was the that was the movies. I started to do a podcast more. Um, just think more in general. Just replay more things and really try to figure out. Like, I think the first thing, I mean, it's not a coping I guess it is. Yeah, it is a coping mechanism now that I think about it. Trying to look back on messages or whatever it is and trying to figure out where did everything go wrong. You kind of find yourself like the old show, what is it called? What is it? Family Matters? Urkel. And he'd say, "Did I do that?" So it's like you try to look back in your life to try to figure out what exactly did I do? What point was I found out? You know what I mean? Like, at what point it's sad, but you look at it, you go back in your mind and you think, like, at what point did I like, did this person find out that I was a loser? You know what I mean? Like, you don't even look at it in other ways. You look at it like, because most of us have some sort of imposter syndrome anyway. Many of us don't, I guess. They think that, maybe people think they are. I was gonna say hi, Mike, but that's disrespectful. Maybe the people were very, very sure of themselves and knew that they put the work in or whatever it is, so they belong where they belong, I guess, or they have the things that they have because they deserve them. I don't know. I maybe a little bit more. My thought process is more like, I'm lucky. You know what I mean? I know when I look in the mirror, I see an older person, but in my heart, I'm still 5. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still 8. Like, not that you don't do things different than obviously an 8-year old, but you still have like wonder when you open your eyes and you look at the world and you look at a house or you look at a tree or you look at the sky or the grass or the animals. You know what I mean? You still, it's like, wow, here's a day. I mean, I'm not saying I don't go through periods where I just overlook everything and just, another day, man, this really sucks. But I'm like lucky that I'm literally able to open my eyes and actually see the sky. There's people who are blind. There's people who are dying and who are not going to see tomorrow, and they know they're not going to see tomorrow, and they're just there, and maybe that's you at one of these spaces in time, and you're just listening for the sake of listening, and um, maybe it helps, take your mind off of things, but it's just funny, the way your mind goes, you know, in different spaces in life. You look back in life and you think, what could have been, and what ways or what type of things did you do that attributed to the losing of a relationship? Anyhow, so did I try to fix the relationship? I think in my own version, you know what I mean? Like you do the basics of trying to figure out what you did wrong. Did I try to fix it? Uh did I think if if I just explained it to myself better, I would make more sense? And did I imagine saying the exact right thing instead of what I actually said or what I actually did? I can't really get a picture perfect moment of what I really did, but I think I would just go through the steps if I had any fractured relationship. You know what I mean? And sometimes, the urge to fix something is not really about wisdom. Sometimes it's about being ready to accept, just being powerless in the situation. I mean, if you didn't make the choice and it wasn't your choice and it isn't a choice that you would have made, then, it all becomes more difficult, But I didn't do anything special or anything that I wouldn't have done in any other situation. I mean, I'm the kind of person who would maybe leave a long-winded message on a phone or a long text or whatever it is, and try to clear the air, and at the same time maybe try to get the person to explain what they're thinking and why they're thinking what they're thinking. And the thing is, if you're dealing with someone who doesn't give any of those things, I think it makes more it just becomes more of a obsession more than anything, maybe even more than the relationship in the first place. You find yourself, I said, looking at old messages, listening to old messages, or whatever it is, and you find yourself ruminating more. You know what I mean? And you start, maybe you start comparing others to them, or maybe you don't, because maybe you just figure that they're just that to you. Probably in most cases you probably don't measure them up to other people in the ways that you find them the way you find them so amazing. And maybe you have nothing to compare it to, which is, I'm sure, in many of the cases. Then what do you do? you know but yeah, I just would, and as in any case, I would just try to straighten things out in my head, um verbalize them or whatever it is, communicate them, and then maybe ask if, probably in a roundabout way. I wouldn't say, "Can you tell me this? Can you tell me that?" and wait for the answer. I'm more of doing it in a roundabout way where I would assume the person would answer questions that are I'm posing, but not forming them in the, in the way of a question, for whatever reason, doing Jeopardy with my relationships. But hopefully you got that. Yeah. Anyhow, next question: was I replaying the relationship for clarity, or was I trying to mentally rewrite the outcome? Honestly, I don't think I was doing any of those. I honestly, I think I was trying to experience the best parts of it longer, because I guess something in me just knew. Like, yeah, I won't say I guess, I know for a fact something in me told me that this relationship wasn't going to last that much longer. And that's why I don't, can I, okay, I assume the person gave me some sort of a hint, right? In their behavior, treatment of me, or whatever it is, because you have to feel disrespected to be disrespected, right? I would assume so. I guess. Maybe not really, but but yeah, I thought I sniffed it out early enough, like definitely earlier than they were. Maybe not. Now that I think about it, I mean, maybe due to the fact that they weren't even going kicking and screaming says that maybe they were trying to give me a hint for a long time, and they just didn't have the guts, and they just went with the flow. Ugh, that even the thought of that, it makes me even feel worse. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Let's see. And the problem, I guess, that playing that stuff, it can look like, I guess insight when you're going over texts or going over whatever it is you're looking back on or listening to, whatever it is. It can get you stuck. It can feel productive, but because you are, I guess, because you're mentally active and you're going at it from different angles that you probably never would have in those situations if you knew that, you know, things were going to be differently or different. So the problem is then you never really land. Ruminating is this thing. Ruminating. What a life. Number 8. Did I start filling my time with productive things because I was healing or because I could not bear the silence? I would say again, the most would be like recording, whether it was singing or recording something or writing something. I think, um, I think nothing at there was very few things that interest me at that time. So I think more than anything, I wanted to get things out rather than to take more things in because I was ruminating or, treadmilling in my mind. I was moving fast, doing a lot of stuff, but absolutely going nowhere because my thoughts were on the one thing. It's not like you could introduce too many new ideas to me in a way that it would seem interesting to me. So I would cut off a movie when, maybe when usually like a movie that I would normally like to watch umpteen times, but at this time, because my mind is so fixated on the one situation, it's like I couldn't take in the information that would give me the necessary dopamine hit that I usually get from those movies in that way. You know what I mean? Hopefully, you got me. Number 9. Was I missing the real person or was I missing the way they made me feel? I think it was more about the way they made me feel. And it's embarrassing to be honest, but you got to be honest, otherwise it's embarrassing. um I just, yeah, if a person looks at you in a certain way or makes you feel a certain way, maybe that you don't generally get to feel, and maybe it's just like literally for me be about myself, you know what I mean, in different ways. And then, you step back from feeling that, and sometimes you feel like, oh man, maybe it was just a game all along to get whatever they can get out of me, you know what I mean? And now that things are over, or they've got their self in a certain area of life where they have no use for me for whatever reason, for better or for worse, maybe I could help their life or their career or whatever their situation in a way before that I can't now for whatever reason, you know? Um, yeah. Was I missing the person though? But I think, and there were. I think, yeah, it would definitely be both because like you like something of somebody. Maybe their humor, or maybe the fact that they like your humor, and you can make them laugh all the time. If you're a performative person or whatever it is. So, it's really hard to say just one. I believe it's more than one. Yeah, yeah. Did I romanticize the good and minimize the problems after it ended? I think most people, I think most people do this at some point. Once the relationship is gone, the mind starts um, editing, you know, it starts highlighting the beautiful moments, the tender moments, the possibility, the chemistry, the future outlooks on things, the good conversations, the best looks, the strongest feelings, and at the same time, it can start softening yourself, and start confusing yourself, and maybe you feel the imbalance of what really happened now that you're really looking back on it and everything, and I guess you start to see the warning signs, and the things that were really going wrong, that you really were not giving much, you weren't paying much attention to it, you know? All right, next question. Was I hoping for reconciliation because things had truly changed, or because letting go felt worse than staying attached? Um, well, nothing changed. I think it was just a fact of letting go, and there's different things, maybe I'll get into that further. There's different things that can make you believe. Um well, so, I think for me most of the time it's like you think that things can get so much further. I think I've honestly, in almost every relationship, I could look into the future and would look into the future, because I wasn't a person who really dated. I What's a date? I believe going out on a date, and if we go out on a date, then that usually means we are together. You know what I mean? So, like, I wasn't the kind of person who's like gonna see Chudy on Wednesday, and 2 weeks from that Friday, I'm gonna go talk to Lucy, or, you know what I mean? It's just not like, oh well, I dated 14 people this year. It's like, nah, that's just not. If I think I'm getting into something with someone, generally, I'm getting into something. You know what I mean? That's just who I am. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess I was looking that, just the regular reconciliation. I was just hoping, but I wasn't looking for a change in anything. It was just, I just thought there could have been more to the relationship, and it just didn't go as far as that I thought it could have gone. You know what I mean? 12. Did I confuse longing with love, and, or unfinished emotional um, life with some sort of destiny or something like that? I guess I believe if something is cut short, or it ends before its time in my mind, then I believe it's always something of the emotions of not having a destiny that could clearly be easily be seen. You know what I mean? What if let's just say you're in a relationship with someone for 3 years and you never had an argument, and it's not that you guys were being fake. It was actually just the fact that you were honest, and they could accept your honesty, and they're honest, and you could accept their honesty, and it didn't send you over the bridges. Whereas some people think, okay, well, if you didn't argue, it must have been because you were being fake. And what I'm saying is, we didn't argue because we allowed the other person to say their mind and accept it, even if you didn't agree, you know? And I guess I'd say I'm just not accustomed to that. um, what fear did this breakup activate in me, or mostly in me? I would say the fear of, what if, what if never again? Could you imagine? They talk about astronauts or athletes. Um, And I would even say in a lower level, just a regular adult male, even. I'm sure females as well, right? Like there's certain things you could do that you just can't do anymore. And the time that you learned to do them, because, think about it, for the first, what, 20 to 23 years of your life, you're always getting better and faster at everything. Um, when I say faster, I mean you're able to process whatever it is a lot faster. Not necessarily you need to do it faster, right? You might be doing it slower, but the whole point is you're able to process so much better to get something out of every little thing, you know, and you just get better, and then all of a sudden you're not getting better and you're actually getting worse, and maybe half month by no maybe half year by half year, you can recognize I mean, physically, whatever, right? This is not in everything, but whatever that age is that you get to the peak of something, there is a point where you peak and then you don't get better. It's kind of like people who figured out different equations, if they're lucky, of some kind of notoriety with it, or from it. It's not like they came up with one in 2 weeks after that, in most cases, except for like maybe Ben Franklin or whoever that was supposedly coming up with all those inventions. Um, um, you come up. There comes a point where you peak out. You get to the top. Then you start coming down, and you start remembering. Time gets so far. You start remembering the times that you can do certain things. You know what I mean? And it's like the astronaut. It's like, okay, if they really did go to moon, let's just say they went out to outer space. 'Cause I don't know how many, I don't even know what the record is for outer space travel, but let's just say, they got to the moon. And they've been to the moon, and it's like going to the moon and going back. Chances are you're not going back. They're gonna send one of the other how many billion people up there rather than you, so somebody else can tell us what it was like as well. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah. So taking it as far to the moon and back, maybe just a simple enough thinking that, you're just not going to find anybody that makes you feel the same way that this person makes you feel. Simple. And that's it. All right. 14. What did this relationship reveal about what I still need emotionally? Um, you know, I guess this is where honesty can be really useful. What did this reveal? I still hunger for, maybe, to be seen, to be wanted, even at my age. You know what I mean? To be desired and understood and respected above all. And I think, when you're younger, maybe even as a younger guy, you're like, oh, you want someone who loves you, whatever, blah blah blah. Uh, not that I don't, but maybe respect is a somehow a version of love. Maybe it's not. They're two different things. But yeah, for certain, I would not want to be loved and not respected. I would love to be respected, and even if I'm not loved, then maybe I'm just like, I don't know, like I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it'd be a long discussion, a long way that I have to really sit here and really, really contemplate. I thought through the whole thing, and therefore I haven't thought very deeply about it lately. But I believe I'm still on the side of I would rather be respected than loved, even though you want both. But which one is more important? I say honestly, respect is more important. And I mean, obviously, you don't want a loving relationship without love, so it's kind of pointless from that end. But you need both. But maybe I need more. There you go. I need more respect than I need love. So you can love me a little bit, just respect me as much as you can. There you go. There you go. Hey, I really feel that. Okay. 15. Did I want to be loved, or did I want to be seen in a way that felt rare to me? I don't think it definitely I can honestly say it wasn't that I wanted to feel away. It was just the fact that I did feel away. And I don't think I was trying to feel away. You understand? You know what I mean? It's like I wasn't trying for someone to see me differently, although I've always wanted someone to feel me differently, you know, see me differently or whatever it is. But um, you've always wanted it. It's like maybe at some point through a bad relationship or whatever, or a few years, you just gave up thinking that it was really ever going to happen, even if you hoped for it every time. And then maybe you finally got to the point where you just had given up all hope and then, you know what I mean? It just pops out of nowhere, you know? So, yeah, that's all I could say about that, really. Was this heartbreak so intense because the relationship was extraordinary or because it touched a wound that was already there? And I think that's what it was. For me, it definitely touched a wound that was already there. And it was that what I initially thought that love and relationships was going to be, I found out that it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And then it stayed that way for so long that I forgot that that was a goal, a desire, a need in my life. And then here I thought it was really there. And honestly, it just wasn't. It's just this person's, there you go. This person's half love was better than some people's whole love. And I guess that really sucks. You know what I mean? Just thinking about it. I don't know. Think about it. See if that makes sense to you. Next question. What did I learn about myself and that I probably would not have to face or would not have faced without this ending? That I could be very, very productive after after the fact. And I've tried so many different creative things since. I guess that's what it does, and that's why amazing songs have come out of heartbreak because I guess it makes a creative writer more creative because of the the sense of loss, you know? You think about how hard you react when you lose something, how hard for whatever long that your time period is, how hard you look for it. Or you think about loss when you drop something, I've said before, and how fast, say it's your keys, even if you don't end up catching them, they're falling out of your hands. Your quickest fast twitch moments are there trying to rebalance whatever it is you dropped. You know what I mean? Much less if you've been dropped, you know? If you've been dropped, think about falling, and you kind of twitch quickly. Now you some might twitch longer than others, but your fastest motions until you just, let it happen, Yeah. Anyhow, that's probably pretty deep, probably too deep for some. Uh, let's see. 18. What patterns do I not want to carry into the next situation, or what things would I not want to carry into a relationship? Mm, Definitely over giving and over explaining and trying to work and chase. I would definitely wouldn't put myself in another situation like that. It was dumb, and I guess I think it was always for me through my whole life. It's always been pretty mutual with everything, um, and I think I just assumed that it was going to be again. But like, just think about it. Let's just say you were in five relationships, and each were for 5 years each. you know, um, and every time you put in that time, you know, from start to finish, or maybe just before it finished, obviously, right? Both people were always giving, 5 years, almost 5 years of both people giving equally in a sense, right? Or to the best of their ability, noticed by the other. So that was fine. And then getting into relationship for much shorter, that you're constantly waiting for the person's half to kick in, and foolishly thinking that their effort is going to actually kick in at some point. They're going to do something that they really need to do for this thing to work. Only the thing is they don't. If this is your first experience out of say six relationships, and all other five were half and half, then by time you realize that it's not going to be half and half, you might be well long into your feelings. You know what I mean? All right, next question. What did I do during this pain? And I guess that was actually healthy and worth keeping. And again, the creative exploits that I have gone through and taken part in, I think there are things that if things were fine, I wouldn't have done them. So I could think of the hours of work that I've put in that wouldn't have been put in. The motivation wouldn't have been there to do certain things that was there because of this, right? So I've gained and I've learned a lot, through the pain. Would I still want it to be different? Well, yes, I would, because that's how deeply I felt, right? Number 20. What would healing actually look like for me now? You know, that is the final question, and maybe the most important one. Not healing is in a theory, or not healing as a vague idea. What would it actually look like now in your life? Would it look like thinking about the person a lot less, investing a lot less into them for a long time? Would it look like not needing the story to turn out differently in my head and not really worry about it? Yeah, probably. Would it look like being able to remember it without reopening the wound every single time? Or would it look like being more grounded in myself? More realistic about people, more honest about my own needs and my own peace. Yeah, you know, it's funny how that is. You know, Healing is not pretending it did not matter, right? Healing is not insulting the depth of what you felt, or healing is not, becoming cold, and healing is not acting like you're above the heartbreak now. Healing is being able to carry the truth of what the Bible says for a Christian, or from the truth of the experience, but without being beaten down or ruled by it. And maybe that is the real question under all the questions, not just what happened to me after the breakup, but I guess who I am becoming, since, and the different things that I've learned, and the different things that I've been able to put into practice because of, you know, I think that's probably the deepest, really. Sometimes, a breakup does not just show you what you lost. Sometimes it shows you what was already hurting in you long before the relationship ended. Sometimes it reveals the pattern, sometimes it reveals the wound, sometimes it reveals the hunger, the starvation, the renourishment. Sometimes it reveals that you're still trying to make sense of why one particular person got so deep into your inner mind and world, you know. But I think there is value in asking the questions, though. There's value in slowing down long enough to tell yourself the truth, not the polished truth, not the brave truth, just the real, actual truth. The one that makes you admit what hurt. No ego. What you hoped on, what you're maybe still hoping on, what you chased, what you're not gonna chase, what you replay, what you try to fix, or what you tried to fix, and what you still might, until now, still not fully understand. So I guess that's it today, guys. Bonus episode, a little different. I think a little personal. As I said, these questions didn't, think of them before because I don't want to fully, do them out, as they say. um, and probably a little bit more unfiltered than usual, you know. But honestly, I guess that felt like the right conversation after all this, because heartbreak is rarely neat when you're living through it. It's layered, it's confusing, it's reflective, it's embarrassing. Sometimes, and strangely revealing all at the same time. You're learning it while it's happening. Anyways, if anything in this episode connected with you, maybe that's because breakups are never just about losing a person, right? They're sometimes what you hoped for, what you thought was going to happen, and maybe it's all with the what you feared and self-fulfilling prophecies and and maybe mask on or mask off situations that just come up. Anyhow, thank you for having dinner with me. You're probably right, podcast. If this episode meant something to you, share it, please. You can hit us up at our email. It's yprpodcast at gmail.com. I could do an episode on your idea if you want. You just have to say the word. Comments or criticisms are all welcome there as well. If you feel like dropping me a line, feel no way. Use a burner account if if you're worried. Or you could message me at You're Probably Right podcast on Facebook even. And yeah, anyhow, till next time, okay? Peace out. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 ducks. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.